to another episode of Out of the Game. This is Jeff Green recording live from Berkeley, California. We have the full crew here today. At long last, we're all together again in one big man hug. So coming live from, also from Berkeley, we have Robert Ashley.
Hello.
Hi. We have live from Seattle, Washington, Luke Smith.
I hope your workday is going well, fair listeners.
Live from New York City, Guy Kroll.
Hola.
And last but not least, live from Boston, Massachusetts, Sean Elliott.
Keep my name out your mouth.
I don't know what that means, but that was
Sean
disturbing.
seems to have an attitude.
Keep what? Keep what out of your mouth? All right, let's move on. What are we talking about today, boys? We got the full crew. So, Luke, you've been absent for a while, haven't you?
Yeah,
What's up with that?
I've been battling spiders and going out and playing golf like an old man
Golf.
and traveling. Yeah.
Like
Really
real
better-
golf, or
Mini golf.
as opposed
Mario
to
golf?
what?
you're not
No,
playing
real-
Golden Tee, are you?
Real adult golf, like get the little knickers and the Payne Stewart hat, the memorial
But
clothing.
What happened to you, man?
Isn't that kind of sunny?
It's awesome. I love it out there among
Yeah.
nature. Among
Yeah.
the remade version of nature. Like, if God had done it right, this is how nature would have been.
If he had groomed it properly.
Yeah, if he took care of things well. But instead, he had to create his slaves, or his
So what-
slaves had to evolve.
What made you get into golf, Luke?
Actually, I've been playing golf for probably 20 years, I guess. Which is kind of
Really?
sad because I'm not very good.
So you've
yeah, I've
always
been
been this
playing-
kind of closet, like, elitist snob sort of dude.
Oh, I didn't think there was anything in the closet about that. I don't think that would surprise anyone.
Do you go to the kind of country clubs that Ngai and I wouldn't be allowed into?
No, we don't really go to to country clubs. It's just a
Okay.
group of us from work go out and play every weekend or so.
So if Ngai and I wanted to come up and golf with you, you wouldn't have to have some sort of awkward, thing about how we weren't allowed in.
No, I don't think we would have to do that. There's now the swimming club I go to. That
The one in Philadelphia?
yeah, I actually go there specifically just to swim. I really like the lifeguards there. They're really kind, and so I go there. I like the water in Philadelphia. It's good.
Wow. Yeah, that was a crazy story. I don't know if it's entirely been sorted out. And it's kind of weird too because I read one story where they interviewed the mother of this woman who's a member and goes there with her kid, and the story said that her son was of mixed race, but they didn't really go any further, so I don't know what that means. That half of him was okay to be in the pool and the other half wasn't, or was it all?
Son, you can't go any further than that. You need to stop right. You need to stop right there.
Ngai, do you want to back up and tell, in case people don't know what you're talking about? Tell the story there.
Yes, that would be a good idea. So there were some kids who went to well, actually that's not even the full story. What happened is there were some kids, I believe, like summer was out and they were doing some sort of swimming instruction at a private pool. Calling out the story in the background here. So basically, the camp had made an arrangement, and they had paid them nearly $2,000 to this country club, I guess, so that students could swim there, could learn to swim and improve their swimming. And what the other students and the instructor said is that some of the members began pulling their children out of the pool and were standing around with their arms folded. This is Miss Wright, who is one of the, I guess, the camp director, Alethea Wright, told the media and said, she went on to say that only 3 members left their children in the pool with us. And then several days later, the club refunded the camps $1,950 without explanation. And some of the parents of the kids who were basically not allowed to swim are now weighing their options on legal action. So
The internet version was like that I'm familiar with is a bunch of white kids were swimming in a pool, and a bunch of black kids got in the pool, and then all the white kids jumped out like someone threw a Baby Ruth in and screamed. And then I don't know what else. Pretty much bad things happen.
What fucking year is this? Where do kids even learn to behave like that? I don't even understand
The report that gave me that
from their
impression,
parents.
it said something about that they were concerned. I forget what the word was. Maybe one of you in the original report, the word sounded as though they were afraid that there was going to be like free floating melanin in like the pool water, and it was going to like make everyone the same color or something.
Well, there was a comment where so the club president then went on to say, so I'm reading from the story, club president John Dusler told Philadelphia station WTXF that several club members complained because the children fundamentally changed the atmosphere at the pool, but that the complaints didn't involve race. But I saw a quote where it said fundamentally changed the complexion. And I was
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's
So
why,
It might just be a poor choice of words.
One time, you know how memory is so weird when you don't know if something actually happened or if you just sort of like turned it into a story that you tell yourself years later. But
Sure.
I know for a fact that I was swimming in our apartment complex pool, and I think that I saw a turd float out from under his short. But then I can't remember if like it was really the Baby Ruth thing. But it was fucking rad. It was like the only other time that I bailed so fast was when I was in the ball pool at Chuck E. Cheese and there was a kid and his diaper came off and there was like fecal matter in it. Sorry, this is so inappropriate, but I want to just make sure
Jesus.
we keep some levity.
Do you think they do like a full clean of all the balls at that, or do they just try to
They
find the
don't
balls
ever
that
clean
got
those
dirty?
balls. You know how
Please,
many
they just
fucking
get
like
some
dense skin
15-year-old
cells
to
and
hose
shit are
the
in there?
ball cage down. Like, that's
Dude.
all they do.
Are those places set up in a way that it'd be easy to hose, like the back of a Honda SUV?
You can't clean them. You should just fucking
how's that?
threaten to throw like terrorists in there and shit, dude. They're gonna throw you in there for like 5 minutes.
I was just gonna do a terrorist voice, and then as I started to do it, and my mouth started to open to do it, I'm like, racist! The racist alert went off in my head, like this big red light.
so apparently there was another statement that did have that quote that I remembered, which is this is from another story which says tempers flared further after the club's president John Dusler issued a statement Tuesday saying, quote, there was concern that a lot of kids would change the complexion ... and the atmosphere of the club.
Right.
Maybe that goes to that
I
free
think
floating
that's
melanin
just a
thing.
pun.
Yeah.
Right. I think so too. I think
You
that was
think
just a
really?
bad use of words. there.
But you know how it is. Sometimes like a fucking jawless yokel can really be that oblivious and make that kind of a remark and have like no idea. Kind of like when I
What?
started talking about the
I mean, my
like,
guess is
okay.
I don't think he. I mean, I think my guess is was an unfortunate choice of words, just given
Right.
the fact that they were already in a shitstorm and it's only getting bigger. My guess
Right.
is that I have a hard time believing at that point he'd be ready to drop a random code word out there like that. But
Right.
who knows? It's definitely getting pretty heated at the moment.
Unless we get a video of him using air quotes with complexion, you know.
I think that guy is just probably just a PR virtuoso. That's
I
my
watched
guess.
Or
I
an
read
onion writer.
The conference with the poor dude this guy you named and guy who owns the place, and also from his wife. And it sounds, I don't know. Listening to her, it sounds like maybe the guy got a raw deal. I don't know. It's really hard to know. Who knows?
Well, moving on.
Country clubs.
So on that note, Jeff, you want the
Yes,
the
sir.
fucking shittiest transition ever? Since you're the host, I'm gonna give you this
Yep.
one free.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Did Andrew Ramsey, GamePro or unpaid GamePro arcade writer, get a raw deal, or did he not?
I'll tell you what about this Andrew Ramsey thing. He's the guy, if you don't follow your gaming internet scandals, who plagiarized articles from, or at least one article from IGN, which shows you just about how smart the guy is, plagiarizing from IGN. But I think what we learned once more Andrew Ramsey articles surfaced was that he probably should have plagiarized more, because his original writing was I hate to diss the poor guy.
No, you don't, you fucking liar. You almost cried when you realized his fucking stories had been removed from the internet, dude.
I did.
You
When
acted
we
like
were-
someone burned the Constitution.
You're right. We were offline. I was trying to find an article that of his in which he reviewed the new Monkey Island, Tales of Monkey Island, and it was making me laugh so hard the other day that I wanted to read it out loud to you guys. But GamePro Arcade has removed all his articles now in response to the emerging scandal. I certainly hope that he didn't plagiarize that Monkey Island review, because if he didn't, he is a comic genius.
What
Because,
if he plagiarized his bio that I'm looking at right now?
Yeah, because this Monkey Island review, I was telling Dana, my friend, that if I tried to write a kind of Cudgel of Xanthor parody of a bad game review, I couldn't have written a review as funny as this Monkey Island review. It was just one classic comedy sentence after another of just bad game writing. So I'm actually going to encourage or ask for the help of listeners out there to find that article. It's cached somewhere on the internet. I don't know how to do that.
Let's for the moment then focus on what we do have.
Yes.
I put that in our link. That's his bio. And for some reason, they left that there in the first sentence is, I am a gamer, enough said. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's not the last sentence, even though he seems to think that he'd said enough. He
Right.
continues to tell us that he's been gaming as far as he can remember. And when he was a young lad, I would be on my nest playing Mario Brothers and TMNT until I was told to get off the TV. Since then, I have never stopped gaming, and my passion is only game for gaming year after game, gaming. At the end, it's like the sad
Keep
thing.
going,
This is the
keep going.
tragedy. Okay, I'm skipping a bunch because it's just more like, you know how it is. Like if you were in 10th grade and your teacher told you, okay, write a cover letter to McDonald's and tell them how you want to work there. You'd say, I've been eating McDonald's. I've been in the ball pool full of shit since I can fucking walk.
I've always loved your
I am a
fries.
McDonald's kid. Enough said. His final line is, I'm an aspiring gaming journalist who's trying to get his name out there to the public. Well, congratulations on that.
Mission
I will do
accomplished.
I will do my best to serve fans of gaming all of the info that they need to fuel the addiction that I myself am guilty of having.
Oh my god. Wow.
So
Yeah.
that silence, you guys feel bad now? Come on, don't turn around. Don't fucking grow a conscience.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Jeez, John,
Sean,
you're
wasn't
such a dick.
Sean, wasn't there another sort of gaming writing thing, like where I forget the site, but they identified some cliches that you and I believe Jeff had identified in game reviews, and then went on to look for those
Sure.
in other reviews?
Yeah. Well, wait. That was, on Bitmob?
Was that Bitmob that did that?
Well, are you
No, it was
specifically...
Gaff. There was a Gaff thread.
Oh, I did not see that.
Oh.
Yeah, the people did a whole thread on the whole like this but that critique of reviews. You know, and people are like, it's a really fun game, but the graphics kind of suck.
Oh,
Which
right.
I want
this, but this.
which I officially want to call the black sheep style of game reviewing. You know, if you could get with this, but you could get with that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we should call it the black sheep style of game reviewing.
And it's like, it's beyond that. I mean, we've covered this so many times in GFW, but now, like, one reason why I just don't read reviews of games is like every sentence is one of them. I mean, it's like
Right,
Lego
right,
bricks
right.
that are fucking bullshit cliches, and you just snap them together and form some retarded, like, progeriac.
Oh, God, Sean, I love you. Sean found
I know.
it.
I just
Okay.
hooked you up.
So now I can read some key quotes from Andrew Ramsey's now classic Tales of Monkey Island review. Maybe they'll teach this review in future game journalism schools. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's one classic early on. This doesn't get to the meat of the humor, but episode 1, entitled "Launch of the Screaming Narwhal," is the start of your adventure. You're thrown in with Guybrush Threepwood. Okay, first of all, right? You're not thrown in with him. You are him. So there's a error right there in paragraph 1.
Bro, same difference. You're nitpicking, bro.
No, sorry. So keep going. Whose wife has been captured by the evil pirate LaChuck. That's 2 words, La and then Chuck. Okay? Again, it's LeChuck, and it's 1 word.
Only someone with a French wife, you're going to get down on the fucking gender
And
pronoun,
a load
dude.
of monkeys. Okay, you're right.
An
This could
article.
maybe not. This doesn't qualify as like great game writing or bad.
It's
You're right, I'm
LeChuck, dude.
nitpicking.
It's Le Car,
Okay.
not La Car.
Right. But here we go. I want to get into the good stuff. Okay. Simplicity was key for this game, and Telltale hit that nail on the head with Monkey Island. There's a great one. You can never feel that the controls get in the way, or never know what you can or cannot interact with.
Wait a
That
minute.
sentence.
Oh, God. Jeff, you also
struggling.
skipped some other craziness, like right above there. So he's basically giving you the synopsis of the story.
Yep.
And then he says, we don't want to spoil much more than that. I'm going to read this exactly as it is on the page. We don't want to spoil much more than that, since that's the fun part of the game, is finding out all these mysteries, either big or small. So let me give you the blurb from the back. This is like the kid who would turn in the book reports, and it was based on the back of the book, which my friend Alvin like very proudly did over and over again. I don't want to spoil this book to you, teacher. You might not have read it.
Here's my favorite part. This comes right out of the kind of GFW stuff that we used to rag on, okay? Visually, the game is very impressive, showing off some very nice environments and characters that both look good and animate well in the way they talk and interact with you.
That's an entire sentence, by the way.
Yeah,
Showing
that's one sentence. Here's
what's
another
the
sentence.
subject of that sentence, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know. It doubles back on itself. Backing it all up with some great background music and wonderful voice work, you can tell this title definitely had some time and work put into it so that the sound and visuals are engaging. That's my favorite. That's the kind of sentence I wish I could write for a parody. I love that sentence so much.
They put in work.
Right. You
put
can
in
tell
work.
they worked on this game so that there would be sound and visuals.
And the whole wait, there was so many layers of like unintentional repetition there too. Okay, so backing and background, and we have voice work, and we have
Right.
putting in time and work.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful sentence. I need to read it one more time because I can't get enough of it.
Wait,
I swear.
it
in
is
my whole
basically this
life-
because
I'll
the background music and voice work are good. You can tell they put time into so that the sound and visuals are
Yeah.
engaging.
I swear, I'll live for another 40 years and I won't write a sentence this funny. And it disappoints me. It upsets me. It makes me want to hang up my comedy hat.
Why don't you get him? Why don't
I
you
should
get this
hire
Good
guy?
him.
job.
I
Yeah,
should
have him-
hire
have
as
him
a
write
go-
some-
a
some
ghostwriter
lines
for
for-
my blog.
For,
Yeah.
no, for
I just want you
Sims
to-
Agents.
Yeah. Backing it all up with some great background and music. Backing it all up with some great background music and wonderful voice work, you can tell this title definitely had some time and work put into it so that the sound and visuals are engaging.
Well,
No.
here's the thing. I'm gonna put Sean and Jeff on the spot for a second. So
Do it. Do it.
you guys were reviewers, writers for a long time, and obviously edited a lot of other work, internal and freelance, without naming any names. I mean, did
Right.
you ever get copy like that you
Yes.
then
Oh,
had
God,
to work
yes.
on?
I got copies that bad.
yes. Absolutely. We had a full-time editor on our staff who wrote like that.
Yeah, we got internal copy that way and freelance
we did.
copy. There were people who there. I still have a folder, in which I save all of the worst of the worst. So to be
I
fair,
made
so to
some
be fair
good
to
and bad,
Andrew,
I made
Andrew-
some good and bad hiring decisions over the years. Some of them were great, like Sean. And then there was one guy I hired who I ended up not keeping, who we ended up using his review as I edited it with red before I fired him. And we kept that around as sort of the example of how not to write.
Wow.
we read on that. We read material from that on a podcast
I
at
think
one point.
we did.
But we
Yeah.
had the majority of times it was just people just don't get how to use modifiers. I mean, you see that everywhere now, which is, I mean, so there's little pet peeves. But the big thing is really not, the most important part was never just the grammar or the style, but it's like, because ultimately that doesn't matter if you don't have anything to say. And so the worst cases were essentially just someone doing what Andrew was doing there, and that's saying nothing poorly,
Yeah,
right?
right.
The poorly
Just
part doesn't
regurgitating the
matter
box.
when you're saying nothing, but
Yeah, that's what I was
Right.
trying to get a sense of, is like where does this come from? And it was seeming to me like it comes from a lack of clarity of thought, like not really. It's not that it's not even so much that he doesn't have things to say, but there isn't a central thesis. There isn't, it's just sort of assessments of various things that are strung together poorly. And even if you were to
Yeah.
sort of work on the prose, there still isn't much there.
Well, you're absolutely right. Like if in the paragraph that's there about the controls, and he says, you never get to feel that controls get in the way or never know what you can or cannot interact with. I mean, he basically he sat down and the only thing he had in his head was the instruction manual told me if I press this button, this would happen, and that did happen. It didn't look that bad, and it sounded kind of good, and you could say those things in 5 words, but then he knew he had a word count, and since he didn't have the ideas or the thinking there to sustain it, he ended up producing the paragraphs that we're making fun of right now.
But does
Exactly.
anyone really think that guy was like really trying? Because I would be really depressed if that wasn't like, to me that felt like, oh my God, I'm supposed to meet my friends at the bar in 5 minutes. Like
Oh, no, no, no,
I
don't
gotta
think so at
hope.
all.
Yeah,
No,
I
Really?
don't think so either.
I think he's an aspiring game journalist, and he was probably proud of that, and he sent the link to his parents. I'm on the internet now. I'm writing articles. I'm a journalist.
His mom made Game Pro
That- that-
Arcade her homepage, made it her desktop.
That's incredibly depressing to me. Thanks
and
a lot.
it's I do feel a little bad about picking on the guy, but on the other hand, this is where the my old man, like, why as Dan Chu has said in his recent blog, the internet is both good and bad, and to me this is some of the bad part of it, is that everybody thinks they're a writer.
This fell wisdom you share. Where can I get more of
But
it?
I'm not
you
even
can
going to
find
go
it
there,
online.
Jeff, because we'd sit there and it was the same way in print. You'd see the same
You're right.
sort of things appear in print that presumably passed under multiple editors, section editors, and managing
You're right.
editors, and editors in
You're right.
chief, copy
Can't
editors,
blame the internet for that.
and it
You're
still
right.
ended up that way.
Very true. Maybe
In
it's
a
just
store
more
on a
the
piece of
case
paper.
that everybody who plays games and is good at games thinks that makes them therefore qualified to write about games. Maybe that's it. Whether it's print or or online.
Well,
Now, does anyone else
does,
feel bad now
but it,
about this guy? We just fucking assassinated this character.
We did assassinate him. He's already living in internet infamy, and now we've dragged his name through even more mud.
He's gonna have to
most
change
of
his
the
name.
Talked about
damage was
possibly hiring
self-inflicted,
him.
though.
I mean,
Most of the damage was self-inflicted. And the thing, I mean, I guess the way I look at
Well,
it
if you're
is,
gonna plagiarize, yeah.
I think that anyone who wants to write about games can write about games now, thanks to everything from Twitter to Facebook to blogs. They can record their own podcasts. Sometimes you get 5 idiots together and they record a podcast. But
Right.
I think that it's harder than it looks. And I think that's something that people don't necessarily realize. It's not everyone can have opinions, but writing an opinion that is going to be, thoughtful, convincing, informative is harder than it looks. And I think I myself, and I think a number of us probably take it for granted. I think that's where Robert's coming from when he says, I don't think this guy was trying very hard. But that's because, we're all have been writers, and so we sort of think like writers even when we're not writing. But for someone who either hasn't been properly trained or doesn't sort of have much natural ability or natural inclination in that vein, I think more along the lines of Jeff, that he probably was trying pretty hard and just wasn't having much success, and maybe his editors thought that was fine.
Well, his
Well, I think
editors
we should
definitely
now-
let
we
him
should
down
now-
in this case.
I think we should now offer to give this guy some help. We'll
Well,
help
the
him
main-
start his own gaming blog.
I think the main piece of advice is don't plagiarize. And so for all the levity and mocking we've done here, in fact, he did completely deserve to get fired, because you just don't do that. And
he
I've
wasn't
seen,
paid in the first place, so
well, he wasn't paid, that's true. But the issue of plagiarism is not a light one, and I was amazed to see on some gaming forums that there were some folks actually coming to this guy's defense. You
Really?
just don't steal other people's writing, period.
there were
it
people that were
doesn't-
defending it.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting and
But
frustrating.
that's not that shocking. I mean, you look at there was a columnist at the Boston Herald, I believe, Mike Barnacle, who's a well-known columnist. He turned out to have plagiarized some things. He still has his job and is on TV. And even more recently, Maureen Dowd, I believe, plagiarized a paragraph from Josh
That
Marshall of Talking
Really?
Points memo, and wasn't even suspended. I mean, basically,
oh shit.
said that she got some notes confused and mixed around. And look, the way that people work in sort of the word processing era, should we say, I feel like, I don't know, we've all been writing for a long time, and I remember in elementary school where starting out where you'd have to outline and even write your entire essay on paper, and then you'd get some time on the typewriter to sort of type it
Mhm.
out. And there's a way
Mhm.
in which sort of like going from the outline to the draft and doing your drafts on paper and then to the typewriter, there was a certain way you would organize your thoughts. And I find now there's an aspect of writing that's almost more editing like, sort of non-linear editing, like where I tend to start somewhere like just where I'm inspired, but it might not even actually be the lead in whatever it is I'm writing, or just jot down some notes, move stuff around, and those kinds of things. So there's part of me that understands how that could happen, but I think you also have to be like careful. I mean, when I'm saying that could happen, I mean like the Maureen Dowd case where, something ends up in your notes and you haven't been careful, but you also have
Right.
to be more cognizant of that and be careful, because in the public's eyes, how's the public supposed to know whether it was an accident or a deliberate borrowing, sort of feeling like, well, no one's going to notice. And in the internet, you just drop anything into a search engine and, something will pop
Sure.
up.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that in writing I've done in the past, if it's something that I've had to research, if it's maybe a game series I'm not familiar with or whatever, or I'm trying to just get more detail or trivia I didn't know, and I'm doing what everybody else does and going to Wikipedia or wherever it is, or maybe some official site, I will take uh, this information that I didn't have before from another a website or Wikipedia and paste it into the bottom of my article as a reference point, because I need the information, right? I didn't
But what
have
are
it.
the
I
odds,
needed it.
though, that you would
But then
confuse your own
I
writing?
take it out. Well, the odds are very slim, right? If you have any clue about what you're doing.
Or if
I
yeah, if
mean,
you're familiar with your own style as well, right? I mean, it should. I mean, have a fingerprint to it that you'd immediately recognize. This is not a statement that that I produced.
well, right, exactly. I mean, but to be careful, I'll even just like separate it by a page break or something like that, or change the font or something. Um, but even still, even if I didn't do any of that, I would still take any individual piece of information and put it into my own and process it through my own brain and writing style. But whatever.
Right. I mean, I would almost say then. I mean, it probably makes sense if you're going to do research in a research phase, at least for something as simple as a review. Granted, you can't write a book this way or do any legitimate research, but if you just read it at some other time and process it, and
Yeah.
then don't even do anything with it, it's just you're
Right.
retaining some information.
Or
And,
print
and
it
if it's
out.
going to be specific
Print it
to the
out.
point that it needs citation, make sure you know to do that ahead of time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you can just be
Um,
safe and just make up all the facts. That way you know it's all coming from you.
Interestingly, yeah, I'd make it all up. Interestingly, some of the defense of the guy in terms of the plagiarism, it was kind of funny. It was because the original review was so generic and boilerplate that the theory was maybe the original IGN review actually was just cribbing lines from the press release. And so,
I wondered about that myself. I actually asked a few people I know that still work if they happen to have the reviewer's guide or press release for that game, and no one
Right.
did, but I wanted to take a look.
right, and so maybe Ramsey here didn't actually plagiarize from IGN. He just cribbed the same way the IGN guy did from the original press release. Who knows?
And that's
But
totally permissible.
yeah.
Well, they would probably, the publisher that provides that material would probably think that's a wonderful idea.
Of course they do. Right. That's why they write those things, because they know that some folks are just going to be too lazy. They give them little shortcuts, that's the express purpose of a game publisher writing one of those things.
It's like they get that and they're like, you know what? I thought I was just going to have to write that the graphics were good and the controls were tight. But look, now there's this whole paragraph about the patented, the trademarked black hand control.
I knew you were going to say that, man. I knew you were going to say that. Sean has a thing for the black hand control system.
Because it was from some review guide for, what was it, the original Godfather game?
Godfather, yeah.
And I just remember reading it, and I think it sticks out in my memory because that was the first review guide I read, and it just blew my mind that there was such a thing. And how,
dude, it sticks out in my memory because we were on the train home from San Francisco and I was reviewing that game and I was looking at that reviewer's guide and you took it from me and you're like, "Oh, how do you feel about the black hand control system? I heard it was really tight." You're totally bagging on me.
Well, what if I had been, "Oh, dude, do they make these for all games now? I got a review due tomorrow."
All right.
In summary, I want to say, I can imagine that we could come across as 5 arrogant assholes who had jobs doing this and who had a lot of experience now bagging on the weak and inexperienced. And so I do want to say that, this guy was completely wrong. He deserved to be fired for the plagiarism part. But I would say, anyone listening who aspires to this kind of thing, just have it be a cautionary tale in terms of what to do or not to do. And I do think Ngai's right that certainly anybody can do what we do. This is not fucking rocket science by any means. But there's certain basic rules and tenets to observe, and just sort of follow those, please. And number 1 being don't steal other people's work.
Don't open your eyes.
There aren't very many third rails in journalism or reviewing, but certainly plagiarism is one of them. That definitely is something that you can't do that. And especially when it comes to opinion. Because presumably he's developing his own opinion about the game he played, and from what you read of the Monkey Island review, clearly he has difficulty coming up with clearly expressing
and so that's the
much
thing.
of an opinion.
If you're a gamer and you're a good gamer and you feel like you want to share your opinions about those, and you think that those opinions would be worth other people reading, the thing to do is not to go to IGN or GFW archives or whatever and see what we did. It's to just write about it like you would be telling your best friend about it, just like trust your own instinct and your own viewpoint and your own ability to communicate and just do it that way. I
would actually push back on that because certainly when I started out, I started writing movie reviews for my student paper, and I started reading entire books of reviews by people like Pauline Kael and Andrew Saris and John Simon and Stanley Kaufman. And I definitely deliberately try to model my writing on their writing, not stealing their ideas. I mean, many of the films that they were reviewing, had come out years before, some even years before I was born. But I actually think it is a good idea to sort of use other writers' approaches and even styles as training wheels as you're trying to discover a voice of your own. That's always a risk. It may sound to people like you're directly aping, but I mean, if you're going to model yourself after people, you might as well model yourself after the best as opposed to people who aren't that good. But at the same time, you do have to be developing your own, you have to be figuring out, how are you responding to the game you're playing? Like, what do you think of it? How do you feel about it? What is it you like and don't like? And use, as a writer who's beginning, other people's approaches as a way to express that, but definitely not taking their actual words.
Right.
Agreed. My final comment for this guy, I do kind of feel bad, and we just ripped him. We just fucked this kid up. And so now that he's laying there on the curb and we're walking away, I'm not going to spit on him. I'm going to say that he reminds me of Mike Shank from American Movie. which is a documentary about some guys making a horror film. But Mike Shank was the beard farmer, the beard farmer sidekick, and he was doing music for the movie, and he basically was playing an Ozzy Osbourne song, but he didn't realize it. And I want to believe the same thing of Andrew, that he just didn't realize that he was playing an Ozzy song.
Amen.
Hear, 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 hear. That's a great movie, by the way.
That is a great movie.
Fucking love that
Yeah.
movie.
If no one gets anything out of this podcast other than that will be enough.
And
Go
Mike-
rent American movie.
Mike Shank's a
Yeah,
very
just
likable
stop
character.
listening to this podcast right now and
Yeah.
go watch that movie.
I've got another
Yes.
good one, another good recommendation. If we're gonna go that way, Anvil, the story of Anvil. Have you guys seen that yet?
No.
No, what's that?
I have not.
Oh, dude, it's for Ashley, especially as a musician. Go rent this movie. This was a real life Spinal Tap story. The band is called Anvil. They were a Canadian heavy metal band, and they came up just pre Metallica, Scorpions, and all that. And apparently, and I'm no metal person at all, even remotely, but apparently they were they heavily influenced all those bands. Like, these guys worshipped Anvil. And if you watch this documentary, it starts out with them basically like headlining some humongous rock show back in the early 80s, some humongous heavy metal band, to these other bands who hadn't yet come up. Anyway, the rest is history. Metallica ends up being a supergroup, all these others, and Anvil falls to the scrap heap of history, right? But they're all still alive, and they still record to this day. And they're like, in the course of this documentary, is just talking about their attempted comeback. And, at least 50-60% of this movie is just totally hilarious, like real life Spinal Tap shit. These poor fucking guys like trying to get decent gigs and all basically, not being the sharpest sticks in the, in the shed type of stuff, but like very sincerely trying to get it together. But it ends up being a really beautiful story, just in terms, I mean that sincerely, about what these guys have gone through throughout their entire lives. They're all in their 50s now, trying to maintain this heavy metal lifestyle and also trying to sort of reclaim their former glory that they had, their 15 minutes of fame when they were teenagers, and still really sincerely trying to make a go of it. So I really highly recommend this movie. It's I'd say one of the top 3 rock and roll documentaries I've ever seen in my life. So it's called
Nice.
Anvil,
It's high
the story
praise.
of Anvil. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds great.
it's a great movie. I
So
promise.
it sounds like a
you will
good
love
counter
it.
to Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica movie. Did you guys ever see that?
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing, also Spinal Tap like movie, except from the point of view of a band that is immensely successful and full of ridiculous sort of spoiled
Yeah.
brats. But
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where they try to do a European tour, and like everything that could go wrong does go wrong. They miss their train, then they get to the club and they play their set, but the club owner at the end doesn't want to pay them their fucking $100 because they were late because they missed the train. It's just like one thing after another, and then the band bickering because they were late. But in between that, moments where they're sincerely passionate about their music. So anybody interested in music, again, I recommend that.
Sounds good. You guys mentioned those because I've gotten on a bit of a rock biography kick. So I was reading early this week. I was reading Exile on Main Street: A Season in Hell with the Rolling Stones. So it's about the making of the album Exile on Main Street.
Nice.
And right now I'm reading No One Here Gets Out Alive, which is a biography of Jim Morrison. And what was interesting was, so after I finished Exile on Main Street, I'd never listened to the album Exile on Main Street. I mean, I have Hot Rocks, which is the compilation of the music they did between 1964 and 1971. So
That's
like
shameful.
a lot of a lot of the
Shame.
Wait a second. Why? Because that was on Alan Klein's record label or what?
No, because you bought a greatest hits of the era where you should just own all the full length records. Because they were all
Agreed.
awesome. But anyway, go ahead.
Fair enough. So like anyway, but I hadn't listened to. I mean, I'd heard of Exile on Main Street, obviously, but I hadn't listened to it. So I'm now finished that, and I'm like, well, I want to hear the album. So I go out, get the album, and I'm listening to that on my iPhone while reading, just starting to read No One Gets Here, no one here gets out alive about Jim Morrison. And after about 5 minutes, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, it just doesn't work to listen to the Stones while I'm reading about the Doors. So I switch over to, the Doors live at the Hollywood Bowl, and immediately the experience is better. So I feel like this
Sure.
is the new kick I'm going to be on, is listening. And I found it actually works quite well, as they're talking about certain songs in the book. And in the case of No One Here Gets Out Alive, the author, I believe Jerry Hopkins, quotes entire lyrics from songs, and listening to that song as I'm reading about this and what's going on in the period, it's almost like creating this mini documentary in your head. So I have to say I'm enjoying it quite a bit, though still at a loss to understand how these guys can be so creative doing all those drugs.
And at so young an age too.
Yeah,
That always
because
blows
wasn't
me
there...
away when you go back and you ponder that, like the fact that the Beatles recorded the White Album when they were about 28 years old. This was after already having like an incredibly long career, and they weren't
mean,
even
Well, maybe
30.
it's like physics or math, like where you make all your great discoveries like before like 26.
Right.
But I
Wasn't
also
Jim
I also
Morrison
think when you
27?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead,
say, I
Robert.
also think when you look at any of these bands from the '60s who made incredible albums every year for 4 years, you'll find that all of them were incredibly disciplined. Like they may have been going out and partying and stuff, but they weren't fuck around bands, you know. There's a big difference between, like, say, the Rolling Stones, who were completely driven, and you had someone like Mick Jagger, who was all business. Like that guy might have, enjoyed himself now and again, but he was not fucking around. Comparing some people like
Right.
that to like Graham Parsons and the Flying Burrito Brothers, people who really were just, getting fucked up all day
Right.
and managing somehow to make an album or two in their whole
Right.
life.
Yeah, Yeah.
There's just a lot of discipline back then. People were
Right.
really trying hard to succeed.
I remember reading, I'm pretty sure it was Hemingway in Movable Feast. I'm pretty sure it was him talking about how, all the writers who came to Paris back in those days to just be part of that scene, just kind of like the rock musicians in the 60s, and how they all came to Paris and thought they were going to be great writers. And all they really did was hang out in the Paris bars and cafes until 3 a.m. getting fucked up, whereas he was up in his room writing night after night. Same idea.
Yeah.
That those who truly emerged artistically were actually the ones who put in the work.
Putting in work,
Well, and
just like LucasArts.
Well,
The Rolling Stones
thing
put
that-
in all the work to make the great sounds that engage me.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Vicious,
All right.
vicious. Good thing this guy wasn't a crawdaddy. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, like, the thing is, so reading Exile on Main Street, I mean, this was a period, and it makes clear definitely like how driven they were and that kind of stuff. But in this case, they were at this mansion in France for 6 months or more before they eventually had to break out of there and go to Jamaica to mix the album. They had to leave to go to France in the first place because of legal trouble they were in England. But basically, I mean, there was definitely a lot of drugs and not a lot of recording going on at that time, which is why it took them so long to make the album. Say nothing of, the groupies, the trading off women, the affairs, like all this other stuff. And it's just like, it's all this stuff that would seem to be like a major distraction. But I think you're right about the level of discipline and ambition as well, because that's one thing the book makes clear. And, Graham Parsons definitely makes a cameo appearance in the book, because he does come by the mansion for a while to hang out and shoot up.
And shoot heroin.
Exactly. But basically it does really talk about how driven, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger were, and, how that got them past a lot of things, even sort of, betrayal of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there'll be maybe someone someday will make the no one here gets out alive about what happened with Duke Nukem Forever.
Or how about if
I
they
would
do it
love
about,
to read that.
Yeah, I would love to read that too.
Or to
We
write it,
talked about
too.
that a lot at CGW back in the day. I mean, we pitched I don't know how many times to 3D Realms and whoever would be their publisher at whatever point, doing some really deep insider look at what the fuck was going on over there at the time. This is when the game was still in development. We really wanted to do it was neither a hit piece nor a puff piece. We just wanted to do a real story on what is going on over there, and we never could actually convince them to do that with us. But certainly it would make
it's
a great
easy to
book.
have those aspirations, though, and much more difficult to actually get the material. Like, there were other industry figures whose studios collapsed that we actually got somewhere with, that we have phone recordings with of them in states that we just couldn't, after the fact, we just said we can't conscionably go and print print this stuff. But
True. The other book I wanted to write was on the making and collapse of Vanguard, the notorious MMO. That there's a great book in there too. So
yeah, and that would be an insane story.
That's a great title for an MC, the Notorious MMO.
My dream would be that folks from 3D Realms who are made Duke Nukem would totally call me up and want to do an episode of A Life Well Wasted about that. I would fly for that. I would buy my tickets and fly to Dallas. I would totally do that.
it would make a great kind of Studs Terkel like oral history book as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Before we get off music entirely, I feel like we would be remiss to not let Mr. Ashley have his
definitely
minute of fame here with with the release of his record.
Absolutely.
So should we make it a moment of silence?
No.
So how's it? Yeah, how's it going? Like, I mean,
For a small chronic break.
Are you personally?
Yeah. Let's take a couple bong hits.
We had
when
you
we
figured
say
out
bong
last week.
kids, yeah. So why don't you tell folks what happened, what you're up to, and where it's at?
Oh, okay. So on Monday, my band called I Come to Shanghai released our album, which is it's really this sort of music project that me and my bandmate, my collaborator Sam Frigard, have been working on for a very, very long and exhausting time. So it's exciting that it finally came out on Monday, and it's been going well so far. I mean, it's been the point wasn't necessarily to sell CDs or anything, but it has been selling, and I think people have been passing it around. I've seen it on all the major torrent networks and stuff, so I think people are listening to it. But
so you did kind of the Radiohead model there, right? Where you told people they could pay what they want.
Yeah, we've got it up as like a pay what you want download, which really, I mean, it's there for free if you don't want to pay. And people seem to be, doing a pretty good job of donating to keep the bandwidth costs covered and everything.
The wording there, I went to the site, and the wording is it's a little guilt-ridden if you don't want to pay.
Yeah,
it's like,
and I've gotten a lot of emails sort of from people asking permission to download for free, and I don't think we really intended to necessarily guilt trip people about that. I mean, we wanted to do the name your price thing, mainly because I think that when you put something out and explicitly say this is free, that you sort of devalue it. I think when you tell someone this is free, people automatically assume that this must not be worth much. It must not be worth your attention if it's free, Let
me just make a mental note there to come back to that notion later on. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. But basically, it's up there, and anyone can just go and download it. And like I said, it's already up on pretty much all the major file trading networks too. And I'm totally okay with that. We've got a donation button if you feel like supporting the band, but otherwise,
well, Soldier Boy style, you definitely need to shout out. You need to give a shout out to yourself and the album by mentioning the URL. Even though it's already come out, you should also mention the release date. I'm just keep it hip hop.
Yeah. I don't think I could do it like Soldier Boy. I'll do it in like the widest, most painful way possible, and I'll say that. My rock band's album came out on Monday, and our URL is www.icometoshanghai.com. You should check it out. It's off the chain.
You tell us about the MySpace page.
I hate our MySpace page. I hate MySpace actually. I would love to wake up in a world in which MySpace was gone. Like
I
it's
was
the
joking.
worst
That was
site.
part of the typical like indie band.
Oh,
It's
okay,
just
okay.
it just goes with the territory. You have to have a MySpace page if you got a band.
Yeah, we have a MySpace page, but I highly encourage people to just come to our page
Not to go there.
because it really is our space. Zing.
Did I ever tell you that shit where like after I went to a Buck 65 show with my friend Hans, and afterward he had a MySpace account, so we just totally, and he realized how fucking dumb it was at that point. So I talked him into changing it to, the guy on my Twitter avatar is basically
Yeah,
that,
the kid
into
like
that
taking
kid.
a picture of himself.
Yeah, so we
Where did that
changed
come
it to
from
him.
anyway?
I don't even remember, man. So we changed it to him, and we just kept posting all these like fucking dumb comments like on his wall about how after he friended us about how like, it was nice talking to him, but just really creepy, nerdy and shit. But anyway, the part that I thought was funny is that at the time was that he did kind of a medley toward the end, and we just kept commenting over and over again, like neurotically, about how we still think it's okay that he fucked up at the end on that song and got all of his songs mushed together and got the lyrics all wrong from stuff. And he never like fucking defriended us, man.
But yeah,
So Robert, when you
MySpace.
say you recorded this for a long time, like how long are we talking about?
Oh, we say around 3 years, but it was a long process of learning all kinds of things. It wasn't that we were working on those particular songs for 3 years. It was just a lot of trying different material and stuff. Since it's two guys, and we're basically the idea is that we both write songs, and then we spend a lot of time just sitting around. Coming up with different arrangements. We play all the instruments and stuff, and we would sort of invent a band around the song, and I'd say one of the kind of gimmicks of the album is that it can sort of sound like a lot of different bands because the whole way it was made was just what would be the best way that we could do this song, and so it's sort of there's a lot of variety to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's good
yeah,
variety.
variety is good.
When you were talking about undervaluing something or not charging enough for something, or even outright saying that it's free depreciates the perceived value of it, I was going to use my time to talk about this book I was reading recently called Sway: The Irresistible Pull of Irrational Behavior. On a side note, it was like less noteworthy, but Nathan's Hot Dogs, when it started out in Coney Island, was selling at half the price of all the other hot dog vendors, and it was for that reason that they attributed the fact that he did like miserable business. No one wanted anything to do with the hot dogs, and then eventually he figured out to pay a number of well-dressed doctors and other professionals to eat the hot dogs in public view and to hang out around the stand. And then also there's this other experiment that I'd seen it referred to quite a few times, but where they gave a bunch of college students some Sobe energy drink and told the control group that they're having it for free, told one group that it was average retail price was $2.98, and then yet another one that is 98 cents. And then they had each of the groups take tests and told them that that not only is it an energy drink, that it's supposed to be cognitively enhancing or of some nature. And so the group that thought the drink was worth $2.98 outperformed the group that thought outperformed the control by a decent margin, and by a wide margin outperformed the group that thought it was 98 cents, who performed below the control group. I thought that was pretty fucking interesting. But the other thing in this book, like I've been reading a lot on like just irrationality, probability, randomness, and whatnot. But so I tend to get like a number of books that are overlap in some way. But the thing that's tripping me out these days is it's called diagnostic bias. And that's basically just making your mind up about someone before you've actually, got to see what they're all about. And I'll just stick to the anecdotes here and let people, you guys can think for yourself how this might apply to workplace dynamic, anything from, applying for jobs, hang out with friends, relations with the opposite sex. So in one experiment, they took another group of college students and they told them that they were going to have a fill-in teacher because their normal professor was going to be out that day, and then they gave two versions of the same bio to everyone in the class, and they only differed in two words. And they're similar insofar as they say this guy is great, he has excellent credentials, he's married, he's a veteran, so on and so forth. But the one difference was that in one version they said people who know him consider him to be a very warm person, industrious, critical, practical, and determined. And in the other version it said people consider him to be a rather cold person, industrious, critical, practical, and determined. And then so they let him teach the course. And at the end of it, they did sort of a follow-up with the students to see what they thought of him, what they thought of the class. And uniformly, everyone who received the version that described him as being very warm said that he was personable, seemed like an excellent guy to hang around with. He was totally competent. And the other group, of course, the trick is he gave the exact same lecture to everyone in the class. And then the other group that was told that he was cold thought that he was just the opposite, that he was arrogant and unsociable, unpopular, self-centered, all that kind of stuff. And then there's a long study with NBA draft picks. And Guy, you might be interested in this. I see you tweeting about this all the time. And they found, studying 6 years worth of statistics, that regardless of how well an NBA performer actually played over the years, the amount of time that they weren't on the bench or that they were put on the court never changed, and it matched their initial draft, the assessment of them at the time that they were picked in the draft. And so that's pretty, pretty depressing to think about. And then the last thing, in short, is that they took a number of women, and they described some as being really beautiful, and then the other half as being average. And then they told them that they were going to have a conversation with a stranger, with a male stranger. Didn't tell them anything about the identity of the person that they were going to speak to. However, for the men who called them, they gave them their photograph, and that was it. But what they did is they switched up the photographs, and so that some of the women that were described by the researchers as average, the male callers thought they were talking to the more beautiful women. They recorded the conversations, and as you can imagine, the guys who thought they were talking to the most beautiful women behaved in the way that guys do when they're talking to beautiful women. And then conversely, the women, regardless of their appearance, responded in the way you would expect. But then the next stage of the experiment was to take the audio recording and strip out the male voice and leave it to just the woman, and then expose it to another group of men and have them talk about who they thought was the most attractive, who they thought was, the best along all these different lines that people gauge their interest in one another. And again, it was the women who had callers who thought they were beautiful, who once again, everyone said, these are the beautiful ones. And so I don't know. I just wanted to share that because I like it.
People are fucking irrational, and we're just, part of being social is that we really take each other's opinions seriously.
Yeah.
So even if you claim to not value other people's opinions or to be an independent thinker, you're influenced by something, even if it in subtle ways. We're always getting our image of things, products or movies or music or other people from the things that we read or the things that our friends tell us.
And think of how bad that it can be if you had the wrong person. So say there's a third party that we're about to meet, and Robert, you said that this guy was just a total dipshit, that he was a cretin. And then Jeff said, this guy's brilliant. He was totally affable. And to think that, we always want to think that we're immune to the sway of the things that research shows us about being human. But, chances are, or like say you're a reader and you're going to encounter Andrew Humphrey at some point, after what we've done to him. Like he will forever be fighting against whatever assumptions people have made about him or whatever conclusions they've drawn based on things that they've heard,
Well, this kind of stuff goes all the way back to middle school, earlier, in terms of, some kid saying that the new kid in class is a douche, and then, can you be friends with this guy? Can you see him for what he is as opposed to what you've heard?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is classroom hazing. So,
did you? I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about the pool, but there was something I posted the other day where a Chinese study found that what they did is they took a Chinese group and then a group of white participants and showed them imagery of someone who was being hurt, not gravely injured or anything, But then they had them hook up to fMRIs, I believe, and what they found was that there was a muted brain response to seeing a person of another race being injured or experiencing pain. I just want to get real heavy right now. Think about
What do you
Jesus.
mean? Like if I
Well,
watch
no.
a video of some Chinese people getting hurt, I'm not gonna respond the same way if I see a group of white people being hurt. Is that what
That's
you're saying?
what the implications of the study are, exactly. And it's a single study, and whether or
I
not
mean,
you
that
know,
might that might explain why we spent all of last week still talking about Michael Jackson instead of all the crazy shit going on in China. But
But anyway,
Yeah.
I think brought that up. The idea that it doesn't necessarily mean there's a neurological component, not a basis, because it doesn't establish chicken or the egg either way, right? I mean, you could form certain opinions in advance, and that's why it's not just that you're predisposed to this, but the fact that there is like a component to it is sort of disturbing to me. And I'd be curious to see if you get the same results if you apply the experiment to people that are speaking other languages, despite being the same ethnicity, or who are, hold different political views or religious views. My hypothesis would be yes, that you would also have sort of diminished empathy.
Right, or Republicans.
Exactly.
I'm only saying that because some guy gave me shit on my blog because I dissed Republicans last out of the game.
What did he
And I
say?
guess-
Was it Republicans? Was it Republicans you dissed, or was it Fox News viewers that you dissed?
No,
how do you
I said
separate
something-
those things?
I made some kind of comment about how I used the word unfortunately in saying that some of my relatives were Republicans. So that upset him. And so to any Republicans out there listening this time, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're Republican. So
Oh wow! I really thought you
Oh,
were
I'm
going to
just-
go with like. I thought you were really at least going to go with like sort of the standard PR response, like where you say like, if you were offended, I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry, and
Um,
and then say that some of your best friends are Republicans.
right. No, I'm just sorry that you're Republican.
I mean, it's on the same level of, I mean, like some people love John Bon Jovi. I mean, you can't
Uh-huh.
like fault them for having horrible taste and like an ill perception of music, and that's sort of
Exactly.
on the same thing,
You're-
you know?
Your record's not like a Bon Jovi record?
No.
Oh my god.
Luke canceling his download right now.
I'm never gonna come to Shanghai now.
Why don't you tell us? You forgot to tell us the origin of the name of the band. Which Andrew Ramsey review was that from?
It was actually a T-shirt that I bought my bandmate when I was in Shanghai. I bought it in the Shanghai fake market, and it was this is actually a good story. I
Dude,
was
that's
walking by
fucking
this.
tender, man. You bought your bandmate a T-shirt. You were putting
Yeah,
in work.
we're tender like that. No, I bought him a T-shirt, and I was walking by this stall in the fake market, and it was there was this really horrible T-shirt that had a sort of drawing of the Bund or the Bund, I don't know how you say it, which is sort of the old international neighborhood in
Formerly
Shanghai.
British controlled. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like kind of a nice block of buildings, old buildings, and above it said, "I come to Shanghai." And what's amazing is I went back about a year later to Shanghai again, and I went to the fake market again, and I was looking for these shirts, and I finally found one, except someone had corrected the grammar of the shirt, and it now said, "I came to Shanghai."
That's from fucking.
And I bought one of those too.
Someone did a
Did that
podcast
cause
about
you
that shirt.
confusion with your band name? Did you think you had to change the name?
No. But I liked the idea that somebody came by and saw the shirt and was like, that's not right. It's not I come to Shanghai. It's I came to Shanghai. Jeez, you idiot.
They fixed it
I
all
like
up.
this idea that somebody really like needed to correct their grammar on
Someone
that.
did a grammar check on the T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
What's next? They're gonna do a fucking grammar check on a GamePro arcade review.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can't let it
Enough's
go.
enough now,
It's
Sean.
fucking Pitbull, dude. I can't.
You big
I can't
bully.
unlatch from it. dude.
when that guy hangs himself, it's gonna be all on us.
Yeah. The only thing on the note is just going to be out of the game. I'm out of the game.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my god.
Oh my God! Please don't do that. Please
It took me a
don't
minute.
do that.
I like blocked
Actually,
that out. I'm like, Jeff is not really saying this, dude.
Can we have a?
You told
we
me
have
to
the
let
lo-
it go, and then you dropped that fucking bomb on him, dude.
I couldn't
Can
help
we
it.
have? Can we have a logo with a for out of the game where the O is a noose?
Oh god. Well, of course the
Can
noose is going to be a
Can
controller
someone on
cord.
the internet just doodle that up this week?
Yeah, we're laughing now.
I wonder if
It's not going
someone
to be so funny.
ever has hung
After the
themselves
laughter
with a
comes
controller.
tears.
Okay, let's all just like let's go back. This is going to be this podcast is already clearly dedicated to
It is.
why do I keep
It
dude,
is.
Andrew Ramsey, not Ramses, not the condom brand. Yes, we should dedicate this podcast to him, and then we take back all the things we said.
No,
we don't mean them.
We love you.
Have our baby.
There's a moment of silence. All right, so what else? What else we got? Luke, what have you been up to, man? It's been ages since we've had you on.
It has. The
Absolutely.
fans want to know.
I don't know what I've been up to. What did I tried to play some games, and then I don't really have anything constructive to say. So about the
You
games, so I
don't?
don't want to talk about them.
Can't even mention them.
No.
So Luke, then abstracting it out, do you feel like we're in a bit of a lull then for sort of good games if you don't have anything like sort of constructive or positive to say?
Oh, you know what? I played. I played through some of that crazy Red Faction game. That was fun.
Yeah, dude, I was just
Mhm.
going to ask. I've been meaning to
I
get that.
played. Yeah, I played a bunch of it actually. I played it for most of a weekend. It's just like you could just pretty much I'm not personally a big fan of open world games. Like games like Fallout or Grand Theft Auto. Like I feel overwhelmed with choice actually when I start to play them, which is no fault of any of those games specifically. It's just a fault with the way that I like to play games, I guess.
Sure.
And with Red Faction, I guess since most of what I could do was, I don't know, sort of Crackdownian, and that like I could just go blow shit up and
Did you just say
took a-
Crackdownian?
yeah, just
Is that like
you know,
like an internal Microsoft term?
Crackdown syndrome.
I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask someone who works for them.
Oh,
Crackdownian.
But it's like, you know, where you can just sort of, like, I don't know, like I didn't feel obligated to really like help the good working class of Mars. I was like, what do I need to do to get money to get better guns?
This is
can
because
just
you're
do
a
whatever.
golf player.
Just
Yeah.
the tactical, like the room for tactical expression just seems so insane. I mean, I played the demo and then after that, and I thought that was a phenomenal demo. And I watched some video, and just the fact that you're able to, you know, in the mission I saw, you were trying to take out these 5 snipers, and that you were able to take the easy route, of course, and say, hey, I'm going to sit there. And the way that people handle snipers in most game is to get a sniper rifle themselves, take cover, and then to have a war that way. But you can charge in, you can drive a truck up through a wall and then disintegrate the roof above you, jetpack up through there, and then suddenly end up right behind one of the snipers. And just that sort of
Yeah, like-
freedom that's always been there in Battlefield, but taken to such a great extreme in this.
That's sort of exactly like I had one of those pretty much exact moments. There are these particular missions where you have to rescue hostages who are in a building, and apparently something happens at some point in the mission. You're not really told about it, like if you do it wrong and they kill the hostages. But I tried a couple times and the hostages kept dying, or they'd be like running out to get into my space jeep, and then they'd get shot and die. And I'm like, all right. So then this time what I did was I got a huge van and drove the van off the cliff. It was like a protected mansion in a cliffside, and so I flew the van off the cliff and jetpacked out of the van onto the roof and walked around on the roof above the first hostage and shot my way, like just shot through the until you get the, like once you get the gun that lets you shoot through and like disintegrate walls. That's when they like, and it takes you so long to get that gun. I wish they'd give it to you earlier. So I drop in and I'm like, "Come with me if you want to live." And I'm like, "Let's go get your friend." I fucking shoot down through level 2 and level 3, and a bunch of guys are like, "Bah," and I'm like, "You're disintegrated. You're disintegrated." And I like shoot through the wall, walk through, and I'm like, "You too, miss." And then I shoot through this last wall, and it was just like a fucking action movie. I shoot through the last wall, and I'm like, "Oh, guess what's out here?" The van that I jumped out of on the way, because I like angled my jump just the right way. We have this guy didn't spit off, and I'm like, "Am I gonna get like do I get like a NPC hand job or something from this? Do I get anything cool? Like little fucking little roadhead as we head back to the Mars capital? Or I mean, that's a pretty kick-ass rescue, right?
I had a similar experience, although yours is a little bit more kick-ass with one of those hostage freeing missions. Like I went to pick them up, and I kept on trying the same. It was a smaller sort of jail cell area that was surrounded by guns, and there was one of the sort of EDF vehicles out front. And what I kept on doing for like 5 tries was I would load up one side of the vehicle with explosives, and when I'd hit the trigger, the car would go careening into the building and like blow up all these guys. And I was so into this happening that I couldn't, like, I kept on coming back and doing it, and then the hostages would get killed, and we'd never make it back to my car, and I kept on fucking up, and eventually I just drove the van that I was in like right into the building, right into the jail cell, and like grabbed the guys and put them in the van, and we drove through the wall and left. And it took like 3 seconds to do something that I'd done, for the last 30 minutes or so. That game has a lot of crazy options. When you guys play that,
do you ever like imagine that mom's watching you? Not literally mom, but I mean, do you play for an imagined audience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always playing for my imaginary friends, just small games.
It sounds ridiculous, but I mean, like, I don't know. When I play that kind of game, I imagine, like, okay, like, what if I were frapsing this for, like, internal studio review or something, and I just, you want it, I mean, you want to show off, right? I mean, so, like, I mean, even, for example, I was doing that with Half-Life 2 for some reason the other day, and I took pains not to just sit around with my SMG. That was constantly, like, catching anytime a zombie would pull a grenade, I'd pull that out of his hand, time it just in time, and blow him up with it. Just weapon switching, basically just putting on a show. And it's like the kind of game like Red Faction just seems like the perfect scenario where you're like, I'm just going to do this again.
So when you're playing games, Sean, do you sort of like have these like people in your head like cheering you on as you're playing? You're awesome, Sean. Is that what you're doing?
We believe in you.
I gotta say, I'd never played a game with the idea of like an audience watching me play the game.
That's a fucking lie, dude. Don't leave me hanging here.
Have you guys seen Scorsese's King of Comedy with Robert De Niro? So Sean, what you should do is you should like do like a cardboard cutout of like an audience, watching you as you play games. So sort of like De Niro did.
It's fucked up,
with like a recorded clap track and laugh track.
You could, dude. At least Robert like just aimed me that he's buying me a shirt right now for coming out with that, and you're just being an asshole.
No, but that idea of performative play is kind of interesting. It's definitely something I've thought about, but I'm trying to remember now like which games I've done that in. It does tend to be, I think, more open world games because the way the systems work in those games, there's kind of there's sort of these not explicit parts where you can just sort of say like, all right, I'm just going to walk away from the main story and just wreck shit, just do stuff. And I feel like those games sort of lend themselves to that. Whereas like, if I'm playing a game like, I don't know, God of War or something like that, I'm trying to progress from beginning to end. I'm just sort of trying to charge through. But I feel like even like a game like Left 4 Dead, sometimes you're looking for ways to do sort of like, more stylish kills sometimes than necessarily just take them out. Especially like where the places like where sometimes you guys notice if you play the game, there are zombies that are really just sort of hanging out. They're not really coming at you unless you sort of, lure them in your direction. They're just sort of like drifting zombies, shamblers, I guess. So finding fun ways to take them out is good, but that idea of performative play is definitely something that's interesting. I guess like where I've sort of done it the most is probably Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
Right.
But unfortunately, the game system's unable to read the flourishes that you're adding to that.
Yeah, that's why hopefully Project Natal, and I just want to set the record straight because there's some site called GameBlorge, BLORGE or something like that, where I think I may have mentioned this to you guys off of the podcast.
Dude,
but
GameBlorge, that sounds like what happens after the culmination of like 6 months worth of Game Boner for previews, and then the review comes out.
I think I had that happen when I rescued those hostages.
GameBlorge. Yeah, you did, dude.
I'm gonna spit.
Oh boy.
Oh man!
my
It's a site that's based in the UK that writes. I guess they do news previews, that kind of stuff. And I just started my column for FastCompany.com on games called Dialogue Tree. It'll basically be Q&As with people in the game industry, and with a focus somewhat on innovation, because that's what Fast Company's interested in, is innovation. So the editor of the site, Noah Robichon, and I have been friends for a long time, and he asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, this sounds like fun. So the first interview that went up was an interview I did with Reggie Fils-Aimé, the CEO of Nintendo of America, an interview that I conducted at E3. And so in the interview, we're talking about the Wii Vitality sensor, which is the heart rate monitor type device that'll go on your finger, and they're going to bring it out sometime next year. It's their new, you know, funky input system. And as they were writing about this thing on Gameblorge, they're referring to my Q&A with Reggie. They refer to me as the guy who called Project Natal racist. Uh,
Ah.
bec- and I don't know if you guys saw this. What they're referring to
I
is
know what it is, but
Yeah, I know what this is.
is Dan Shu, who who is the founder of Bitmob along with Damian Lin. He was in the same behind closed doors demo as me, where we saw Project Natal.
Right.
And the specific demo, because they're rushing through it really fast, because apparently we were the group right before they brought in Miyamoto from Nintendo, and his translator and marketing guy from Nintendo of America, Bill Trinan. They brought them in to show it to them. So they were kind of hustling us through this demo because they had some real VIPs. Not the Shoe's not a VIP, but they had some real VIPs coming in after us. So they're showing us like the game, the game demo where the ball, you're trying to throw the ball down the almost handball court at these blocks at the end. They're showing some other stuff, and then they're periodically bringing us in, say, try this real quick and try that real quick. And the one that I got to try was Burnout. They had kludged together a demo where you would raise your hands into sort of the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock steering position, and you could use that to steer. You would step forward with your right foot to accelerate, and then step back with your right foot to brake and reverse. And so I was having, when I went in there, I was having difficulty steering. And they had an inset in the like a picture in picture that was showing a heat map sort of view of what the camera was seeing, and I could definitely see that like where my hands were sort of shining more brightly, so it was clearly picking it up. And my guess was it was just sort of calibration issues. It's pre-alpha software, so it's calibration issues from me jumping in right after someone. So anyway, I never wrote about this because I wasn't covering this for anyone, but Shu wrote about it and wrote about the fact that I had tried this and had some difficulty. And then I think it was IGN message board picked it up with the headline, not IGN, on IGN message board, picked it up with the headline, "Is Project Natal racist?" And then it got picked up on GAF, and then it was off to the races, and everyone was writing about this thing. And these guys thought that I had said it when
Which
this
is
is my
rad.
first public
I think
statement.
everyone picked it up too because wasn't there something on a popular television show that was more or less just the exact same scenario, but with some other piece of technology?
Yeah, wasn't it what was the show that got oh man, I'm like losing it. Was it Arrested Development?
That sounds
Or
like the one that they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was something similar that had happened, but the thing that was also sort of funny is that the person which Shu didn't pick up on, probably because he didn't know the guy, but also in the demo with us were the head of the ESA, and their head of PR, and the head of PR's name is Rich Taylor, and Rich Taylor is black, and he tried the Burnout demo just before me and had no problems with it. So I don't know, like, was it and keep in mind, Shu was not irresponsible in his reporting. He reported exactly what happened, and what he said was he didn't know whether it was my dreads or calibration, but I was having difficulty with it. And
I like
could
the
have
idea that
been-
Natal has a problem with dreads. Like that would be awesome.
Look, it could
How
entirely
did you
be
feel, dude?
my
Were you just like,
beautiful, luxurious dreadlocks that caused this problem. I'm willing to concede that, but he didn't say it was racist. I didn't say it was racist. But now, through the telephone of the internet, and of course, because they're doing something on something I wrote, but throwing out this aside, no one thinks like, hey, let's just make sure this is what actually happened.
That's better, dude. Because
What we really
anytime,
need now-
I'm glad we could clear that up for the 8 people who read Gameblog. Hey there, Gustav and friends.
dude, Al
How
Sharpton
did the
reads
game
Game
take
Lord.
care of you?
So anyway, I guess that was one of the long asides that people don't like. But the whole point I was trying to make is that it would be great. One of the things I could see as a possibility for Project Natal is as an extra layer on top of games like Dance Dance Revolution, but also Rock Band and Guitar Hero, where now flourishes start to get recognized, like where you can get really performative. Because, one of the things I like to do sometimes when I'm on guitar is I like to duck walk. I'll admit it. I have no shame in
Really?
it. I like to duck walk while I'm playing the guitar.
I don't even
And
know
I
what
should
a,
be
what a duck walk
rewarded
is.
for that.
what's a duck
you
walk.
post
It's the
that?
Chuck Berry move.
Could you post a YouTube video of that?
A duck walk, how to explain it? It's like sort of like when you get down almost into like that Russian, where your arms are folded and you're kicking out your legs. You almost get into that position and you've got one leg extended
Dude.
as you're sort of, squatted down, and then you're just like, on your foot that's not off the ground, you're using that to hop forward.
I'm trying to find the name. What's that shitty band? I think is it called like Attack or something? And I was like all going off on the videos of it a while ago. And
I
it's
don't
like
know.
they call it like Crabcore or something. It's like just this
Crabcore.
ridiculous
Crabcore.
ass.
The hell are you
This-
talking about?
I'm gonna have to send you guys a link, but then everyone else later on. It's like just this horrible fucking band that it sounds like it's trying to be death metal at 1 minute, and then it's got like auto tune going the next, and then it sounds like the sorriest like emo shit a second later. But the whole time they're doing these like retarded choreo. It looks like one of them's taking like a shit, but like a drama major taking a shit, not just anyone. Like just like really making it fucking resonate, I can't find the video. Fuck. Hold on. Okay, we can go on for a minute because I got the link. Hold on. I'm gonna paste this for us.
So what
So
about
you're gonna have to mute.
Luke?
You're gonna have to mute this,
Look-
and we'll just keep talking and watch it in the background, and we'll post this in our notes too because. And just okay. So as we watch this, end guy, you tell me if this is you. And it takes about you might just skip in to about a minute or so because that's when at first he's just straining, like pushing like turtle head shit. But then there it is right there. 20. I think at 23 it starts to fucking emerge.
23 seconds?
It crowns. Yeah.
Grief.
Is that the
No.
bassist in the background doing that? I see it little, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's the guy in the
got a
keyboards
good-
doing it too.
you need a wide bass when you play keys. It's important. Safety first, kids. Safety
Wow.
first.
Every single
No,
guy in this
that's-
band looks exactly the same. Like they're all dressed exactly the same, and they all have the same haircut and the same expression.
Yeah.
These guys are like the Jonas Brothers
Shit!
of
Wait,
metal.
wait. Go to 58 seconds, dude. Oh my god. Go to
Actually,
56 so you don't miss it.
I have mine muted.
You don't even turn it on because it'll fuck up our recording. But go to about 56 and let it play.
What was that?
The choreography is amazing.
Yeah, it's like guys and dolls.
Oh
my
shit!
God.
So how do we get on this top? Oh yeah, end guy. This is how you play. You want fucking Project Natal to give you extra style points for doing this shit,
All
dude.
right. So
The moves at the 58-second mark in particular would be good to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's here's another.
I-
That shit with the guitar is awesome.
God.
It's fucking
Check the link.
badass.
It's the-
For listeners, I think we got to describe it. They're basically, it's like the guitar player and the bass player at the exact same time do this move where they grab their guitars and they throw them up behind their necks, like to the beat, and then throw them back down, and it looks so
Awesome.
dumb.
Check the
Like,
link
it
I
looks
just posted
so
now.
dumb, it's amazing.
It's a gif of the fucking bass player Like, and they called this crabcore. I'm serious, dude. So at this point, I don't know how else to describe it. It would be like if you were in a fucking latrine, it didn't even have walls on it. Like, you're military and you just dug a pit and you had to like take a shit, like a combat shit. Like, this is pretty much what you would do, but except instead of like holding your junk, you'd be like pretending to strum the strings on the guitar.
Still, the thing is, I mean, we can mock all we want, but that looks like a tough pose. I don't know how.
I agree.
It wasn't for
I
your
think that's
mom
some
last
higher
night.
Wow.
Hey, now.
I think that's some higher level yoga, honestly.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking as a guy who does yoga.
I'm actually doing that in my living room while we record. I have a wireless headset, and that's actually.
I think I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone, so let's just get back on track. Fucking,
Okay, so getting back on track, I
We
just,
will-
I just sent you
everyone
guys, resent
will-
you guys a link, which is showing Chuck Berry duck walking. And the embarrassing thing is, what I was calling a duck walk clearly wasn't a duck walk. The duck walk is something else entirely. So I suppose it's a good thing that Project Natal doesn't exist, because I might have uploaded footage of myself and called it N Guy Duck Walking, and it would have been wrong.
that would have
Wait,
been
you
wrong.
didn't know
Oh.
this video that we're watching is what a duck walk is?
That is the actual duck walk. I was more doing, like I said, like one leg extended and off the ground, and the other using the other to hop. The
Oh,
duck walk
okay.
is an actual walk, not a hop.
So are you
So I know
doing
you-
the
I know
more
what you-
hoppy move he does in the first?
You're doing
Yes.
the Back to the
Because
Future.
that's what I was envisioning when you were describing the duck walk, was that initial Chuck Berry move, not the finisher
Yes.
in that video.
The
Exactly.
finisher.
Either way is a good way to get a turd out your pant leg.
What is wrong with you, Sean? Like,
I think of that. I
you're
have a story
so
when my uncle- when
scatologically obsessed.
When he was a kid, because my mom, blame it on my upbringing. When I was a kid, my mom told me about how my uncle would shit his pants at school, and how they for a long time they kept finding turds on the playground and stuff, and they thought that there was like dogs coming in. Until like one day, it happened. He got caught two ways. So one day, someone saw him shaking it out, like just like really like shaking it down the leg, and then like my
Walk it
grandmother
out.
saw that
Now
and
walk it out.
turned his pants inside out, and saw a fucking Hershey highway.
So Sean, you know what's really funny about the Chuck Berry link I sent you is that the second comment in there from this guy this guy says, you can already see how this has influenced later crabcore bands.
Is that what
Wow.
it says?
Yeah.
Crabcore, dude.
So is that not a joke?
No, and then someone later, Super Melon 1 says, early crabcore, and then another guy says, yeah, fuck yeah, crabcore.
I don't believe it.
So
How
Sean,
did
what
they
is
end
this?
up on that video? That's crazy. Like
What is
they
this
were
whole
searching
crabcore
for their
trend?
fucking roots, man. They were like, dude, this shit everything comes from somewhere. Where'd this come from? And they ended up on Chuck Berry. So I think Jeff, you're the host. You can be the judge, but I think we're getting close to wrapping up after that.
I think we were done about 20 minutes ago.
Exactly.
So whatever happened to zombies? Like, I guess we're gonna do zombies later.
That's true. The
It's-
zombie cast
It's turning
keeps
into
never
like
happening.
a fucking our inside joke now at this point.
We
By
were
the time,
supposed
by
to
the
talk
time we
about
record,
zombies.
by the time we recorded, the zombie apocalypse will have begun, and we
That's
won't
true.
have given our readers this. We won't have given our listeners the safety tips they need to survive.
The problem is too is that as time passes, since we had it like in our immediate memories, we're gonna go to discuss it. We're gonna realize we have nothing to say other than like, you remember that time Michonne scooped out some butt and eye, and then everyone will be like, yeah, that's gross.
it's going to be the Chris Farley show. Zombie cast is kind of like our Duke Nukem Forever, I think, at this point.
I wonder if anyone's gonna write a book about it.
Yeah. How come they can never get their zombie cast together?
If that kid hangs himself, I bet they will, because our careers will all be
shit.
over.
Oh god.
Yeah, don't even.
Oh,
Why are you bringing us
Except for
back to
mine.
that shit, dude?
Except for mine, because I didn't talk during that part.
We need to if that guy's at PAX, and if even like less likely he somehow hears this, we need to all go out for a drink with him.
Just remember that you're a beautiful human being and that people love you.
Well, here's
Especially your mom.
do you
Right.
think this guy can come back from it? Like, what if he basically dedicates himself to
Uh-huh.
authentic, unplagiarized,
Absolutely.
improved game writing, like sets up a blog and just like starts wrecking it.
That's what this country's
Jeff, you're
all
so
about,
full of
man.
shit. No, he can't, dude.
Sure he
Absolutely. He's just gonna fucking
you-
grow.
Hey Jeff, if he
critical
if he
faculty.
does that, will you link to him from your blog? Will you give him
Yes.
throw him some traffic?
Yes,
will you
I
tweet
will.
him up?
This is what America's all about, man. Go. This is the land of second chances.
Wow.
Who says there are no second acts in American life?
Exactly.
Andrew
Look at
Humphrey.
Michael Jackson, man. He was about to come back again.
Oh, well, he's definitely coming
See,
back
now
now.
that would have been a good
I
segue
wish
to
I'd been able
Zombie
to
Cast.
talk about that show. To talk about
The
that.
governor of
Yo,
South Carolina. That
give us-
dude's gonna come back.
Dude,
dude,
let's not get
well,
back
speak-
on the fucking Sanford. Michael Jackson
Everybody
for
comes
Luke.
back.
We can
No,
come
but
back.
you guys, all right. If we're gonna extend it, if we're gonna go into extra innings, I mean, we can't even be talking about Sanford. The guy to talk about now is John Ensign from Las Vegas. I mean, from Nevada. So he's a senator from Nevada. Now, apparently, there's some organization in DC called the Family, which is like Promise Keeper, conservative Republican types. Tom Coburn, who's another senator, is one of the kind of the heads of this organization. Sanford was a member when he was a senator, and Ensign is a member. So this guy, one of his senior aides to his campaign, guy he'd known for some time, and his wife, the guy's wife, was the treasurer of his campaign office, and his aide, this woman's husband, worked in D.C. with the guy. He was like his chief of staff. So anyway,
Get
their
to the
house
sex,
in
though.
Nevada.
Get to the sex part.
All right, their house in Nevada, the Hamptons. This is Doug Hampton, who worked for John Ensign, and his wife, who worked for John Ensign as well. The Hamptons' wife was broken into, and the Ensigns invited them to stay with them. And this happened, like I believe, in the holiday '07 period. While they were staying with the Ensigns, John Ensign and Doug Hampton's wife got it on.
Awesome.
And didn't find out about this until a text message that he saw, which I guess was explicit in some way. It came out, and a discussion ensued among the families, and their kids were there. I mean, I don't know if it was the older kids or whatnot. The whole thing was already sounding pretty nutty, and they agreed to sort of try and move forward. But apparently, well, according to Doug Hampton, it's just one side. This guy went on TV in Nevada, let me back up a little bit. The whole reason we even know about this is what happened was Doug Hampton is at his wit's end. The guy is still pursuing his wife, even though he and his wife are now trying to make a go of it. The senator is still pursuing his wife, and he's like, I need help. He had actually gone to this organization, the Family, in D.C. They had convinced Ensign, yo, dude, you need to break this off. You need to write a letter to the guy's wife, basically saying it's over, saying you did wrong. He agrees to do it. They drive him to FedEx to make sure he FedExes the letter. And within 24 hours, he's called her, told her the letter's on the way, saying, don't believe the hype, goes down, flies back to Nevada, and they get it on again. So
Wow.
this guy's at his wit's end, and he basically sends a letter to Megyn Kelly, who's an anchor at Fox News, telling her, please, basically breaking the whole thing down and telling her, yo, won't somebody help me get this guy away from my wife?
Why didn't
On
he just
Fox
fucking
News.
bail from the wife? I don't get it, dude.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, dude, you got to put your wife in check. But then what happens is the guy gets wind that Ensign gets wind that this is about to break, and he holds a press conference admitting that he betrayed his wife, and that's how the whole thing goes public. So now, since then, I guess last week,
farting? Sorry. I'm just playing.
Hampton gives an interview where he lays this out and comes across as alternately sad, and you realize the kind of bind he's in because he and his wife are both dependent on Ensign for their livelihood since they both work for him, or at least they were at the time. They were since. Well, let me back up. But anyway, this guy's sounding very pathetic, very distraught, very upset. So what had finally happened was that they were effectively bought off, for their silence to get them out of the situation and whatnot. And this is where it gets even crazier. So not only is this guy clearly in the family, not only they sort of feel like he's so weak-willed that they need to drive him to FedEx to make sure he sends the letter, which they turn out to be right because, like I said, he ducks back and gets with her again. This guy, he cuts her a check out of his campaign funds for $25,000, but then gets his parents, because he comes from money, each of his parents writes a check for $12,000. So it's so $24,000 from his family, from his parents to Doug Hampton, his wife, and each of their 2 kids. So $96,000 altogether. And sets them up with a consulting job, but according to Doug, he's still pursuing the wife even after this going on. The whole thing is like really crazy, but you're just like, what is up with these people? Like, you've got your parents helping you pay off your mistress. You've got this whole weird organization in Washington. I don't know what the hell is up, but that was Mark Sanford is old news. You know, John Ensign is the new hotness on the DC scandal front.
Is Ensign Republican or Democrat? That's all that matters.
To Jeff, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Jeff guess. Jeff, what's your guess?
I'm
Oh,
gonna
come
go
on, he's a
Democrat.
Republican.
I'm
He's a
going Democrat
Republican.
this time.
He's a Republican.
Wrong. He's Republican.
Wow.
Okay.
I was just trying to be nice. I was trying to go, oh, I know he's Republican because they're all assholes.
On that note, the sound quality is massively improved because Matt, a.k.a. Dude Granny's taking the time to produce all this and put on such music as Stick Stickly by Attack Attack to take us
Apparently
out.
my mic still sucks, though, I keep hearing.
And he's getting a portion of the proceeds that we all get paid for doing this show, so that's good.
Well, didn't Flavius from NeoGAF recommend that we switch to condensed something or other microphones? That they had better
believe so.
quality USB mics that would be better sound. I mean, I looked at them; they looked very old school. I was kind of impressed. I almost feel like
I don't
if I
think
broke it out, I'd be
using,
like Diana Ross in a Motown studio about to lay down a track.
I don't think using condenser mics would be very smart for us unless you guys are all in, nice small rooms. I'm in a giant well, not giant, but a fairly large loft, and if I used a condenser mic, it would sound like I was in a cathedral or something. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll figure out your mic situation, but definitely let's a big hand for Tezuda Granny for being on the wheels of steel, as they used to say over at Ziff.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, I think we're done.
Is that a good outro? Is that good?
That's it. That's good. We're done.